One of the most mysterious characters in the Half-Life series is the G-Man. Hours upon hours of time has been spent crafting theories and analyzing background details to decipher his true nature. But the truth has been surprisingly obvious ever since the release of Half-Life 2. And it's in a line that most people never even gave a second thought. At the end of Half-Life 2, when you're storming the Citadel, Dr. Breen says this.
It isn't necessary.
I agree. It's a total waste. Fortunately, the Resistance has shown it is willing to accept a new leader. And this one has proven to be a fine pawn for those who control him.
No!
Don't listen to him, Gordon.
How about it, Dr. Freeman? Did you realize your contract was open to the highest bidder?
This singular line, overlooked and brushed aside by the vast majority of the Half-Life community, contains the key to unlocking the agenda of the G-Man and his employers. And that agenda can be summed up in one word: profit. If the employers are giving the contract to whomever makes the highest bids, then they're running a for-profit enterprise. They're essentially space capitalists. Judging by the fact that G-Man says he nudges things in a particular direction in Alyx, he likely serves as a fixer of sorts, doing dirty jobs that the employers don't want traced back to them in a way that maintains an air of plausible deniability. Now, some of you might accuse Breen of being something of an unreliable narrator, and I don't think that's wrong. But when the G-Man pops up at the end of Half-Life 2, he has this to say.
You've done a great deal in a small time span. You've done so well, in fact, that I've received some interesting offers for your services. Ordinarily, I wouldn't contemplate them, but these are extraordinary times.
Even if both G-Man and Breen are unreliable narrators, the chance of them making the same false claim independent of each other is unlikely. Now that we've established that G-Man likely works for a megacorporation, I think we need to discuss what that implies about the lore of Half-Life. Because if Gordon's services are given to the highest bidder, then that means whomever receives those services must have paid for them. And who has Gordon been serving? The Resistance. If Gordon is helping them, that means the Resistance must have made a deal of some sort with the G-Man. And we have evidence to corroborate this idea. Two pieces in particular. During the chapter Root Canal, Gordon hops into a boxcar with a Resistance member and a Vortigaunt zapping a television. If you have a keen eye, you can briefly catch a glimpse of the G-Man on the TV screen before the Vort stops zapping it. This could be interpreted in multiple ways. For example, the Vort could just have been spying on the G-Man, which wouldn't be hard to imagine knowing what happens in the beginning of Episode 1. However, the image on the screen doesn't show us a lot of the G-Man other than a close-up of his face, so I don't think it provides much useful information to any potential spies. Because of this, I think it's more likely that the G-Man was communicating with the Resistance member and his Vort. While the first piece of evidence I discussed isn't definitive proof of the G-Man communicating with the Resistance, this next piece is. During the chapter Highway 17, Gordon has the opportunity to look through a pair of Combine binoculars, and if he takes it, he will find Odessa Cubbage talking to the G-Man. This confirms that the Resistance was communicating with the G-Man, which means that it's very likely that they made a deal of some kind with him. This adds an extra dimension to the G-Man's anger at Vance when the Vortigaunts freed Gordon. It isn't just that the Vorts deprived the G-Man of a slave. It's also a matter of Vance of violating the deal between him and the G-Man. This theory has given us a lot of answers so far, but the theory does itself raise an interesting question. Namely, what did the Resistance give to the G-Man? For them to secure the G-Man's services, they would need to outbid the Combine, who, as we know, run an interdimensional empire. They got a lot of shit to pay the G-Man with. I have a theory. It's not perfect, and I'm not as confident in it as I am with my argument that the G-Man is a space capitalist. But I do think it's worth considering. I'd like to explain it now, but we need to cover some groundwork for us to understand what the hell I'm on about. So we need to go back, way back, all the way to the resonance cascade that started this whole mess, because it just might contain the key to understanding the deal between the G-Man and the Resistance. We know that the G-Man caused the resonance cascade because Eli told us such during the chapter Our Mutual Fiend. And at the end of Half-Life 1, the G-Man says that his employers are now in control of Zen. Why is this important? Well, it's commonly speculated that Zen is the space in between dimensions. So, anyone who wants to move between dimensions on a regular basis, like say the Combine, would have to go through the employer's territory. Since the employers are space capitalists, they want to monetize that territory. Now, how would they go about doing such a thing? The answer is simple. They charge an entry fee. This fee would not only drive up the price of transporting people and goods across dimensions, but it would also drive up the price of moving them to different parts of the same dimension. Let me explain why. While the Combine can't teleport from one part of a dimension to a different part of said dimension, they could teleport to another world, and from there, teleport to a different part of the world they arrived from. Now, this would still be incredibly clunky, since the teleporters the Combine use take an extremely long time to do their thing, as can be seen with Breen at the end of Half-Life 2. But it would be a significantly cheaper option than transporting goods and personnel manually in a lot of cases. These tolls, however, would render the system a lot less cost efficient. And because of that, the Combine would be itching for a way to move things from one end of the planet to another more efficiently. And lo and behold, such a system can be found right here on Earth. Now, the Combine want those portal machines in part because it means they won't have to pay the employers as much. That would eat into the employer's bottom line. So, the G-Men might want to prevent the Combine from getting their hands on this technology for such a reason. There is also an extra layer of dickishness to the takeover of Zen. There's a common view in the Half-Life community that the society we find in Zen was created by the Nihilith after they fled the Combine. I disagree with this view. I'm of the opinion that the Nihilith was a Combine-appointed administrator of Zen, in the same way that Breen was the administrator of Earth. And I have the evidence to prove it. During Gordon's excursion to Zen, the Nihilith says this.
Their slaves we are, their slaves we are.
We know this can't be in reference to the Nihilith's kind, since they also say this.
The last, I am the last.
In reference to being the last of their kind. So the we has to be in reference to the citizens of Zen as a whole, which means that the Nihilith's faction are a group of people looking to secede from the Combine. Zen used to be Combine territory, and the G-Man took advantage of the Nihilith's attempt to secede so that he could acquire it for his employers before the Combine could retake it. Now let's hop back to the present and ruminate on what this information means. The Resistance has just deprived the G-Man and his employers of an incredibly valuable slave, and the G-Man has retaliated by enslaving the daughter of the Resistance's leader. The G-Man is an individual that even the Combine fears, who is a newly acquired asset to take Gordon's place. Whatever happens in Half-Life 3, the Resistance is in serious trouble.